Hi everyone, thank you for watching this presentation today. My name is Donna Howarth. I'm the founder of Middle East Menopause Organisation, MEMO, formerly known as Harmonious Her, and recently had a name change to incorporate the whole of the Middle East as opposed to just the UAE. So this presentation will just give you a small insight into work that I do in the Middle East. So moving forward, what I shall do is to hide this camera so you can see the full screen. So where is the UAE? The UAE is in the Middle East. It was formed in 1971 and consists of seven Emirates. And the ones that you'll recognise is Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And surprisingly, 90% of the population is expatriates. So as I've already mentioned, MEMO was founded in January of 2020, and it was born out of my own frustrations with regards to the lack of awareness and the lack of support that was available for my menopause and the HRT that I needed. So what are MEMO's aims? The aims are to raise menopause awareness and to grow the support group further, to encapsulate the whole of the Middle East, to encourage consistency in professional advice, care and support, and encourage wider availability of body-identical HRT as opposed to bioidentical, and more importantly, to establish a regional menopause organisation. In 2020, I created a survey entitled Menopause Matters UAE to bring attention to the work that I do and to kind of, gather a small snapshot of what the menopausal women of the UAE were experiencing. And it was a rather crude survey, to be fair, and in that I'd never done a survey before, and I'm sure that if the survey was repeated now, we would get a lot more responses and a lot more information. But it did what I wanted it to do, in that it encapsulated, the menopausal age of 40, the perimenopausal age, that is, of 41 right up to postmenopause at 60, etc. So the barriers, language, as I've said, that there's a lot of expatriates in the region, lots of different languages, and there's an assumption made there that everybody speaks English. Well, they don't do. Unfortunately, I don't speak any other language. So, the survey was quite limited in that respect. Again, everybody's understanding and knowledge of menopause. Not everybody knows what menopause is, limitations with regards to technology, and embarrassment, shame and stigma that comes with menopause too, and cultural messages and traditional messages too. So as a result of the survey, found that 83% were not taking HRT and 44% weren't taking anything at all, and that included supplementation as well. And with regards to current menopause services that were available at that time, only 9% were confident, and 51% lacked confidence, and 40% had not seen a healthcare professional with regards to menopause at all. So what support is needed in the UAE? Well, we need specialised clinics. We need more HRT availability. And there's a real lack of menopause awareness. Social media doesn't really mention it, apart from the support group that I have. There are other people in the UAE that are starting to raise their voices, and, every little bit counts. Magazines and newspapers and radio, they're more or less silent. But again, I have to say, since the survey was done, the word menopause is popping up in a particular radio station in Dubai, which is great. We do need more specific menopause information with regards to nutrition, alternative therapies, exercise groups, and more awareness groups, so we can raise that knowledge. Symptoms. So with regards to menopause, there's always that misconception that it's all about hot flashes or hot flushes. Well, as we can see here, 60% of the women that answered the survey talked about, gaining weight, sleep problems, fatigue, tired, and brain fog. And obviously, we can see further down night sweats and low mood and vaginal dryness. So again, menopause is so much more than hot flashes and flushes. So how are the menopausal women in the UAE coping? Well, 21% are good, 54% okay, but 25% were struggling and feeling overwhelmed in the menopause. And that is quite concerning, given the anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts that some women can have. So that just goes to show that more awareness is desperately needed in the region. So I did reach out to the members of Memo. I have nearly 1,000 members on Facebook, and I have a presence on Instagram and Twitter too. And these quotations come from the members from the Facebook group. So I'm just very briefly going to go through and look at those and just share that information with you. So one lady in particular, she visited for her menopause symptoms, and she was put on medication for a completely different condition that does have side effects. And she did reveal that those that medication did make her feel a lot worse than she already was. And through her own research, she managed to, come off that medication and looked at her diet and felt, much better within a short amount of time. So again, all these quotations, they are anonymous, sharing of experiences, because again, referring back, there's still a lot of stigma, shame and embarrassment with regards to menopause. And, some are not happy to reveal their identity. So this lady, expresses that she finds it difficult, or found it difficult, to talk to a doctor with regards to HRT, and that she needs to find somebody that was open-minded, and and to try find somebody that's not going to question, when are you going to come off them, and don't you think you're too young to take HRT? So this person here said that she'd seen 2 consultants, both confirmed she was in perimenopause, but they still didn't feel there was a need for her to go on to HRT, even though she presented with all the symptoms. So she found her own therapy by way of acupuncture as an alternative. Yes, it is costly, and she now feels that she has to cope with the menopausal symptoms that she experiences. So on top of all the menopause and the symptoms and the stress that it causes, the majority of women have to do their own research, and they have to find their own doctor support to support them in their menopause. And if they are lucky to find somebody, then there's the issue of HRT. Then if you do find your HRT, and when your prescription runs out, then you're left wondering if you're going to be able to get the supplies. And, again, quite possibly there could be a period of time where you are without HRT because the supplies are hit and miss. And some of the experiences here, quite common, and I know this is quite common across the globe, being prescribed antidepressants for the symptoms, being referred to different consultants. This lady was referred to a psychiatrist, loneliness, feeling that you're on your own and that there's nobody to talk to. And as I've mentioned, HRT is difficult to find, and the stocks can be quite variable, and that there's a real lack of information in the region too. So again, that draws on loneliness and being on your own. Coming to Saudi Arabia, Tena is a sanitary product company who created a video to raise awareness, because in Arabic, menopause means age of despair, and it's quite, there's negative connotations there, and they felt that they needed to change that. So they changed the meaning to age of renewal and tried to highlight the positives of going through menopause. So they've done quite an enlightening video, and more importantly, it was done in Saudi Arabia, where the women in Saudi, their experiences are quite considerably worse than the women in the UAE, as they have little to no HRT at all, and the same can be said with regards to professional care as well. So if you have a chance to look at that video, please do. So coming back to, the UAE region, one of the universities in Dubai did a small study, in fact, one of the first studies in the region with regards to Emirati women's knowledge about the menopause and HRT. And again, this was quite enlightening. The survey was done in Arabic, so it aimed specifically at local ladies. And in conclusion, they found that the Emirati women's knowledge of menopause and HRT related to the level of education and the employment status as well. And the end point there is a need for raising more awareness with regards to symptoms, and more importantly, for informing these ladies of what their management options are as well. So this gentleman, Hisham Arab, is based in Saudi Arabia, and he posed a very interesting question. Should the management of menopause in the Middle East be different? Well, yes and no, because we do need to recognise the rich diversity of culture, traditions, etc., that are in the Middle East. And you can see here that, he's already mentioned cultural, religious and family issues that contribute immensely to the perception of menopause. And again, this, the socio-economic status can affect the severity of symptoms too. But it all comes down that, we need to be establishing more specialised clinics and introducing HRT and alternatives to help these women in the menopause. And this is not just exclusive to Saudi Arabia. This is to, right across the board, right across the Middle East in general. So with regards to Middle Eastern women, they experience menopause earlier than Western women. UK, the average age is 51. UAE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is quite similar, but Egypt is 46. But I have to say that the research and studies that were done to highlight the average age of menopause is quite dated. And researchers do feel, and I do feel, that if this research was repeated again, then you'll probably find that the average ages would be more in line with UK. But again, we need to raise awareness. We need to equip these women with knowledge so they can make their own informed decisions with regards to menopause. So currently in the UAE or the Middle East, there is no official menopause body to represent the needs of women living here. We've got the international menopause groups, we've got the menopause groups in the UK, North America and Australasia, but nothing specific to the Middle East. So it's very important, it's imperative that this is addressed, because we need to raise awareness. We need to inform women of the choices and what's available to them. And more importantly, professional care needs to be consistent, because it can be quite bluntly hit and miss, where your experience will vary from one consultant to another, in that one has up-to-date current knowledge of menopause guidelines, where another is still referring back to the 2002 study, and we all know what happened there. So that very much needs to be brought in line. So as with my work with Memo, I have liaised with several consultants to help raise awareness in the area and the region, and I've created a menopause specialist list. I've also created a checklist that patients can take with them when they go to see their consultants, and it all helps in getting the right support, in getting the right advice and information. And I have listed their special mention to various doctors, as their help has been amazing in me in turn being able to help the women of the UAE in particular. And it's something that I've not been able to do on my own, because the it's just difficult to get information out to the women of the UAE due to the language barriers, due to cultural issues, due to technology. And again, we've got different nationalities and different understandings of what menopause is. So there is, I guess, more barriers in the UAE as opposed to what there would be in the UK and America and other countries, for example. And that's not to say that other countries aren't worse off than the UAE. I'm very sure that there is. We all have different experiences. So it's, it's something that we do need to address on a global scale. So that, it really is a small snapshot there of the work that I do in the UAE. And I do invite you all to look at my social media to get more of an understanding of what my work involves. And please feel free to reach out. Please feel free to ask questions. 15 minutes is not a long time to get across what happens in the UAE, nor the work that I try to do. But we do all have to work together. As I've mentioned before, menopause is a global issue. It's not a Western issue. Every single country on the planet will be affected. And we all need to stand together, and we all need to work together to raise menopause awareness on a global scale. So I'm just going to put the camera back on there just to thank you all for your attention. Thank you for listening to the presentation, and I wish you all well, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you.